Hey guys, so it's me, super sick still, but I should be in tomorrow. I think this is the day I feel the best. So, let's go over chapter 2. I know you read this with Mama Link, so you should have an idea already that Scout went to school. She's super excited about going to school. She even says specifically textual evidence. I never looked forward more to anything in my life, okay? That right there shows that she is so excited. So if you don't have that jotted down, you should probably take a minute to jot that down. Scout is excited for school. All right? I gotta make that smaller. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm writing. Okay? So Scout is excited for school. There we go. Okay, so goes on to tell us how the first day of school starts, and specifically that Jem gave her some rules. He told her, and if you don't have this highlighted, you want to have this highlighted. Jem was careful to explain that during school hours, I was not to bother him. I was not to approach him for a request to enact Tarzan and Ant-Man, to embarrass him with references of his private life, or to tag along behind him at recess and noon, okay? I was to stick with the first grade and he would stick with the fifth. In short, I was to leave him alone, right? Those of you who have younger brothers and sisters, you probably know, or maybe if you have an older brother or sister, you also know that they usually tell you like, hey, buzz off, leave me alone, okay? All right? So I would jot something down like, don't, what's the real reason he's doing this? It's probably not to embarrass him, right? Don't embarrass, don't embarrass Jem. Okay? All right. So we keep moving down the line, and he says we'll do always as we do at home. We keep going and we meet the teacher, okay? The teacher, you should have her name down, Miss Carolyn Fisher, right? There's some really important information about her. She was no more than 21, so I mean she's fresh out of college. She just finished, right? There's a physical description about her here, all right? It should give you the impression that she's, it's that first day of school. She looks prim and proper. She's very excited. And she tells you that she is from North Alabama, from Winston County, okay? And all the kids kind of murmur because they know a little bit about North Alabama. But basically what the important part is of that is that she is not from Macomb. So if she is not from Macomb, what do you think that means? It probably means that she's not going to know the people from the town, all right? Because if you're from Macomb and you grew up in Macomb, then you're going to know everybody that lives in Macomb. She, on the other hand, will not know that because she, as we said, is from North Alabama, okay? Already there's something for you to think about with her. How might this affect how she teaches? Moving along, I'm pretty sure you talked about this with Mama Link, but she does read the story of the cats to them, okay? She began the day by reading a story of cats, okay? Now, were the kids excited about the story about cats? She said, oh, wasn't that nice? All right? Oh, wasn't that nice? And nobody's really interested, okay? Why do you think no one is interested of this story? Think about what these kids do for a living, okay? Then she starts putting the alphabet on there, and she asks if anybody knows what they are. Everybody did because most of the first grade had failed last year, all right? So that tells you a little bit about education in that town. And so then she chose her because she knew her name, and she read the alphabet to her. So right there, Scout, her first day of school, is reading the alphabet. And she obviously gets upset. And then she made her read most of her first mobile reader and the stock market quotations from the mobile register, which is a newspaper, okay? So clearly she discovered that she was literate. Right? Most people would be really excited about this, but Miss Carolyn had a faint distaste, okay? That right there shows you that she's not excited about this. And she said to tell my father not to teach me anymore, okay? So I would jot down something about how Scout knows how to read because of her father. Knows how to read because of Atticus. Okay, remember Atticus is her dad. All right. And then she tells him that he hasn't taught her, and he just says that he just sits in the living room and he reads to her. So that's how she learned, okay? Just reads to her. So that's also important. Shows you, I think Mama Ling talked to you about how Scout's actually a bright kid and she picks up on that stuff without being taught, right? Then we keep going down. Let's see. She's already upset about that. She says she could not remember when the lines above Atticus's moving fingers separated into words, but I had stared at them at all evenings in my memory, etc., etc. So anything that he would be reading, she would be following. So all of this right here, this whole point describes how she learned to read. Okay? She puts, I knew I had annoyed Miss Carolyn. All right? So she's pretty upset. And Jem tries to comfort her and he says, don't worry about it, Scout. It's just that she's not from here, etc. Okay? So we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep going on. Actually, we're on page 17 now. Okay? And so she was bored in class and she begins to write a letter to Dill. Okay? And Miss Carolyn caught her writing and told her father to start teaching her to write. Okay? We don't write until first grade. So normally when kids go ahead, it's kind of a good thing. But in this case, she doesn't want her to start writing. Now, it is not Atticus's fault for her learning to write. Mama Link explained to you that it's Calpurnia's fault. Okay? And the reason is because she would have her write the alphabet, okay, from the Bible. She would copy out a chapter of the Bible. All right? And if she did it right, then she would give her an open-faced sandwich of bread, butter, and sugar, all right? But she seldom rewarded her, so that means she almost never got rewarded, but it made her practice her writing by force, okay? So this is how she learned to write. You just want to put that down somewhere, that Cal taught her to write. If you don't have that down, you want to have that down. Cal taught her to write. Okay. Let's make that smaller. Sorry, guys. Okay. So now it's time for lunch. Ooh, I skipped too far ahead. Alright, so she says it's time for lunch and everybody's gonna go eat, and she tells everybody to put their lunch on their desk. Everybody who brings lunch, put it on top of your desk. And you see that. She goes over to Walter Cunningham's desk and says, where's yours? Now, you notice that he doesn't have shoes. Alright. If you looked at his face, you knew that he had hookworms. If you don't know what hookworms are, look it up. If you're in medical arts, you should know what hookworms are. Alright. Let's see. If he had owned any shoes, he would have worn them on the first day. So clearly he doesn't own any shoes. He did have on a clean shirt and neatly mended overalls. Mended means that they had to sew them together. All right. So Miss Carolyn doesn't pick up on the fact that Walter Cunningham must be very poor. Okay. Did you forget your lunch this morning? So he looks straight ahead and he doesn't say anything. And she keeps asking him, and it's uncomfortable because clearly he doesn't have money. So he says, yes, ma'am. All right, so she says, she opens up her purse and she gives him, here's a quarter. Go and eat downtown and you can pay me back tomorrow, okay? But he shakes his head and he says, no, ma'am. All right. And she's insistent. And he's like, no, no, no. And then somebody else whispers, go on and tell her, Scout, because obviously she's already gotten in trouble enough times, so she's the one that should just speak up. So she rose graciously on behalf of Walter's behalf, and she says, Miss Carolyn, he's a Cunningham. Now remember that Miss Carolyn does not know anybody from Macomb. She doesn't know the family. She doesn't know anything. So how is she supposed to know that makes a difference? Okay. Let's see. So nobody understands anything, but basically it's that he didn't forget his lunch. He didn't have any. He didn't have any that day. He wouldn't have any tomorrow, and he wouldn't have any the next day. All right. He didn't really see quarters. So she keeps trying to say Walter's one of the Cunninghams, but she doesn't understand it. And basically what we know about the Cunninghams is that Cunninghams never took anything they can't pay back, okay? So that's what it comes down to. They would not take anything that they could not pay back. All right? Actually, Mr. Cunningham, the dad, all right, of Walter Cunningham, his father, is one of Atticus's clients, and the way that he pays him back was not in money. Okay? He would pay him back with hickory nuts that appeared on the back steps. He would pay him back with a Kroger sack of turnip greens. So Jean Louise or Scout would say, why does he pay you back like that? Because that's the only way he can pay me. He has no money. So right there we learn about the Cunninghams and how important it is. And they even ask, are we as poor as the Cunninghams? Not exactly. The Cunninghams are country folk farmers, and the crash hit them the most. The crash that they're talking about has to do with the Depression, the Great Depression, and obviously the Dust Bowl, okay? So this right here tells us why the Cunninghams are so poor. So if you don't have that down, you would jot down why Cunninghams are poor. Sorry, this is so slow, guys. I know. Alright. I hope I'm not boring you too much. Alright. So basically, we're going to keep going down, and I think that's basically the most of what we want to get to. You probably want to make sure you figure out a little bit about the entailments, but what ends up happening is that Miss Carolyn gets really bothered by everything that Jean Louise says, so she grabs her by the collar and she says, I've had enough about you this morning. Hold out your hand. And basically she thinks that she was going to spit in it because that's the only reason that anybody would hold out their hand and make them. But that's not exactly what happened. Miss Carolyn picked up a ruler. She gave her a half dozen little pats. So 6 times she hit her with the ruler. All right. So Miss Carolyn had whipped her. All right. So think about now Scout's first day of school. It's probably not the best. Okay. So saved by the bell, then Miss Carolyn watched the class file out for lunch, and she sees her sink down in her chair and bury her head in her arms. Okay? She would have felt sorry for her, but she's obviously pretty upset. And that's basically the end of it. Okay? So you guys are going to make sure that you have all these active reading notes, and you're going to take a quiz now. All right? Thanks. Bye.